Hello there, my name is Timothy Reese, and this is Convos brought to you by Brooklyn Quarter and League of Filmmakers. We're here at Coin Op Game Room in the Gaslamp at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm very excited to talk to Michael Paraskevas. Michael is a Los Angeles-based composer deeply immersed in storytelling through film and visual media. Most recently, he scored the Disney Plus Marvel series Agatha All Along, starring Kathryn Hahn, alongside composer Christophe Beck. Michael's musical fingerprints can be found across a wide spectrum of genres, including projects such as Hawkeye, El Tanto por Cristo, Unspoken, Frozen 2, This World Won't Break, and the Emmy-nominated score to WandaVision. Texas-born and raised, Michael studied music composition at the University of Tulsa and film scoring at the Pacific Northwest Film Scoring Program, where he studied with Hummy Man. Michael,
Timothy.
So excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's my first con.
This is your first Comic-Con?
Yeah, my very first one.
When did you arrive? When did you get here?
We got here Tuesday.
Awesome.
And Wednesday was actually my birthday. So we just
Happy
made this
birthday.
big week-long celebration.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. That's so awesome. So like, as your first con, when did you go in? Like, did you get in for preview night? Like,
we picked up our badges, but we didn't actually go to, because that was my birthday. So we ended up, sort of doing our own little thing. But we kind of just, scoped it out. And I think we're here just kind of like, just experiencing it and like just kind of going with the flow of things and seeing where we end up.
What are the biggest things that have kind of stood out to you as you've, because it's a lot for your first time.
Oh, for
right?
sure, yeah.
And like, what are some things that have kind of stood out to you as either like the crazy ways that crowds are forming or just cosplay in general? Like, what are the things that kind of stood out?
Yeah, I think for me, it was like when I first saw the schedule and saw all these really cool events, and I was like, dang, like we can't see it all. And so like really having to like pick and choose. And but I think we're trying to, yesterday was a lot, I had my own panel and we had all these events kind of back to back. And so today now I'm taking it a little slower and just sort of making sure we have time to just like not schedule things and just sort of like, just vibe and just be there and just kind of see how it goes. Yeah,
I was talking to Victoria about how like if for someone who experiences FOMO, this is probably a great environment because you can't see everything. It's like it's humanly impossible.
Yeah,
you got to wait in one line at a time.
Yeah. So I haven't even waited in a line yet. So that's I'm just intimidated by them. Everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pick and choose for sure.
If you get a chance, you should swing by Con Rangers because they have this booth where it's like a Boy Scout, Girl Scout badges for all the different things that happen. And one of them is like waited in line. Another one is like I got to held the end of the line sign. Kind of thing for different achievements you get.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So what was your panel about whenever you were here? Like, what were we talking about?
So I was with Impact 24, the PR, and there's several creatives from different fields, music, editors, and other things that we, talked about our different shows. A lot of us worked on like superhero projects. And so, talking about the, our process behind these characters and, finding the connections between that and sort of, how, I guess, our journey towards that. And, I think just, fun, like I think just seeing other creatives and how everyone brings something different to the table, but then how we all sort of combine into this magical art form.
Yeah. I want to ask, like, what instruments did you start off on? Like, where did you start in music? What was kind of your first foray into, okay, I'm like, because I imagine you probably didn't start out going like, I'm going to be a film composer, right? In a lot of ways. Or maybe you did.
I don't know.
Were you one of those kids that like just knew?
I think it just kind of happened.
Okay.
My dad's a music teacher, so I just grew up, always playing music and loving movies and just constantly surrounded by, expressing myself through music and through art. And I think it just sort of kind of naturally sort of gravitated towards that. Once I figured out I couldn't play baseball professionally, like gave up on that dream. So the next one was, let's see what, let's make movies, let's make music. And so I, dabbled like playing, many different instruments, but I'd say piano, I guess, is my primary instrument. But now so much of the work is done at the computer. And so I, almost in a way, I feel like that's now my main instrument.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit harder to tap in.
It is, but now they have other things. Things of making it more tactile, and you can like hook up your iPad or like hook up different synths or other things, and so you can really, I think, customize it in ways really make it your own and find what helps you flow creatively.
Do you find that now that you've been established with like different film scores for different properties that are all very distinct, do you find that you have a kind of grounded way that you approach a project? Like, do you have like a kind of a system in place that you go like, okay, when I approach a new project, it's a new IP, it's a new thought, it's a new genre from others I've worked on. Do you have a method that you approach that with, or do you just kind of free form it for each?
Yeah, I think almost a little both. I think there's a process, but I think it's like pretty loose. And I think a lot of it is just initially just like the conversation with the director and the filmmakers, and so just sort of feeling what the vibe is. And so it's like, you know, grabbing coffee, not even like sitting at the piano, not writing anything or doing anything. It's just, you know, just sort of trying to be clicking on the same page creatively. And then usually I sort of take that information and I'll like make a playlist, like a huge one on Spotify, just different things that like, hey, there's a cool sound, or maybe they reference like a specific score or a specific artist or an instrument. And sort of just like becomes this like melting pot of different ideas that I feel like I'm more just kind of like absorb them. And then when I actually sit down to write music, pen to paper, pen to screen in this case, that there's all this like information that's been kind of going on in the background. Yeah. And that kind of gives me a jumping off point to, you know, to figure out, because like I think the scariest thing is like when you first start and you're like, I don't know, like the possibilities are endless. And so finding a way to narrow those down, and then you kind of pick like, here's a cool idea or a cool chord progression or a cool like texture, and then you just start with something, and then it sort of like reveals itself from there.
So one of my favorite sounds is whenever a keys player is basically finding the right patch.
Oh yeah.
And you have that bung 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 as they're just scrolling endlessly through settings, trying to find this thing that's either they already know in their head or they're just waiting for something that sounds better than what they expected. You know? And I just love that moment of just patching through. And also like, when you're sitting at your studio, are you now in that ultra wide family that has the total wraparound setup?
I haven't converted. I like the double monitors. Okay. And then I have a TV screen as well.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And so I like having like one program open here, one program open here. And I also have, I guess, an iPad as well. And so
so you're four screening now.
Four screens. And I think I prefer that. Like it keeps it very like sectioned off.
Yeah.
But I have seen the wide one. I'm like, I don't think that's for me.
I keep waiting for a manufacturer to make like an actual like keyboard that has space for a mouse and keyboard. You know, so you don't have that awkward like I'm leaning over a desk while trying to type at the same time that you're playing.
Cool. I'm waiting for the Minority Report where you just have the gloves on and you're just going like that. And everything's, you know, motion controlled. So who knows, maybe someday.
I feel like we're on our way with the Vision Pro. The Vision Pro is getting close with the taps. So whenever I'm really curious about, you've gotten to write for, like in the superhero genre, kind of broadly really. And in being able to do that, you're having to really think about these very distinct scores that are both sonically distinct in the way that they're kind of sitting within the landscape of whatever the property is, whether it's WandaVision or Agatha All Along, or these different kinds of radically different genres, those two, but still in the same universe, depending on when you are in the series, right?
Yeah.
But when you're thinking about writing for that, are you having to think about these distinct melodies and soundscapes as two individual vehicles when you're composing? Or are you thinking about them together? Meaning like your melody that's like the theme for that character. Are you able to kind of blend those together, or do you have to keep them separate? How do you do that? I'm like really fascinated by that concept.
Yeah, I think it's really fun in storytelling with comic book heroes, or you know, this sort of like very ultra thematic, like big idea sort of way of storytelling. Is there's almost an expectation to have these big themes and memorable melodies. And I think, you know, many composers like love those opportunities. And so I think that's really kind of where we start is, you know, we have, you know, all these characters have like iconic costumes and hairstyles and visual representations. And so musically, we're trying to find something that sort of reinforces that. And so, you know, it's usually finding a distinct melody that's then supplemented by interesting sound design or textures that really convey like who they are, who their power is, what their background is. And I think what's cool about these stories is like it's such a wide canvas, and like you can go in so many different directions. And I think it's really fun playing with that, playing with perspective, and playing just with, you know, the ability to develop these characters throughout a journey, and then even across multiple stories, you know, from WandaVision to Agatha, and then they show up in other places too, and then you kind of expand the universe as well, and then there's other composers that have other ideas,
right?
We might bring those in as well, and you feel like you're part of something like much bigger.
It's a repertoire, right?
Yeah.
And I love the idea too that, like, especially whenever you jump from something like that's the massive spiritual supernatural of something like WandaVision and Agatha to Hawkeye, where it's such a grittier, like real life lived. Their powers are just they're like really good athletes.
Yeah.
You know, they're not able to summon fire or mystic energy in order to supplant themselves. They gotta they have to heal at the end of it. And so like I just love the. Is there like a way that you, whenever you're thinking about your work, are you thinking about also leaving yourself little footnotes to help yourself later along with these compositions, like in the sense that you develop these scores, but some of these characters last for some of them have been on screen now for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, do you have to think about that whenever you're writing a score? Like, okay, I'm gonna build this, but I'm not gonna hit my ultra sforzando, ultra fortissimo. I have this other kind of idea of where that could go, and like
not necessarily. I think it's more contained to the story that you're actively telling, and I think it kind of I've worked on Ant-Man 2 and 3, and like we weren't thinking about Ant-Man 3 at all. Like
awesome.
It's we have what's in front of us, and especially some of these things like take years and years to develop, and so like I think you can kind of work yourself in a trap if you're holding back and not doing the story justice. And so I think it's you do what you have, and then if it goes somewhere down the road, then I think that's just sort of like a fun adventure you're revisiting, and then you kind of start afresh and find ways to sort of develop and twist it and make it something that's unique to that.
Yeah.
But then having like the strong theme or melody or something is sort of what binds it together.
That's really cool. Are you, and speaking of adventures, how do you kind of get like planted in the technologies it's developing? Like, how do you stay on top of whatever the newest thing is in music, especially music, because it's changing very rapidly right now?
Oh, for sure. Especially the past like 2 years, it's insane. Just, like how much has changed. And I think, for me, it's trying to embrace it and like just being open to new things. I'm always asking other colleagues or people like, what do you find useful? And I think especially you see like the AI, like there's a fear of that, but I think, it's coming whether we want it to or not. Yeah. And I think, now I'm like trying to research and learn ways to like find specific tools or things that can implement into my workflow and things that make things easier. And I think it's really cool just like how powerful like technology is. And like you saw, like it changed, really changed film scoring back in like the late 80s and 90s with synthesizers, and how much that changed the process of composing. Whereas no longer of someone just sitting at a piano writing on paper.
Right.
And computers had such a big effect. And I think now we're kind of a similar inflection point of there's a process that has worked for many, many years. And now technology has like surpassed that. And now we're sort of figuring out where do we go with that.
Yeah, especially as things adjust to the expectations of how long things take. Because it used to be if you wanted to have something, mixed and mastered, you would way back send the reels, and then you're sending the files, but then things have to render. But now everything is so quick that you could conceivably actively live mix, live master, and have someone listen in digitally to the session in full fidelity in a remote place.
And that's what like we were recording a lot of orchestras now, like overseas. We just sit on Zoom and have like a feed going, and it's not the same as being in the room, but it's somehow like bridge these connections from, you can collaborate with anyone from anywhere now. And I think there's something really special about that, and like really globalizing the film and like creative community in a way that's just never existed before.
Have you had like a moment in the past couple of years that's really been like, you're blown away by, like the kind of thing that you think of, you go like, oh my gosh, like I was never expecting this moment. Like, in the midst of this?
I guess it's probably the remote recording. COVID kind of like forced some of that.
Yeah.
And I'd say like the first few months it was like really bumpy and like, I don't know, like what we used to do is like not working right now. But I think everyone like adjusted really quickly. And a lot of musicians now, like when even like soloists, they record at home and like, so now it's where I used to have to like try to schedule someone to come in and like figure out, like everyone has their state-of-the-art setups, and like, hey, I just send off these tracks, record it when you have a chance that works in your schedule, send them back to me. And there's, you know, again, like I try to do as much in person as I can, but that's not always practical. And I think just the speed and ability to do that and having that flexibility, I think is really important.
That's awesome. What are you excited to work on next? What's kind of next? What that you can talk about?
Yeah.
Right, because you're definitely in the world of secrets.
Yeah,
in a lot of
I mean,
ways.
I think I'm always interested in just like doing something different than what I've previously done, or exploring like other types of stories and genres. So I think one that I'm really excited about is an indie feature about this real life clown named Glurpo.
Okay.
He was an underwater clown in San Marcos, Texas, back in like the 60s.
Underwater clown.
Yeah, okay. And it's just like, we're just now starting it, but like, exchanging ideas for it. Just like how do you score this that it's, you honor like the comedic aspect of him, but you're not wanting to be like, super cheesy, and like, we're sort of say like it's like a character portrait about him, and so how to acknowledge that, but sort of get deeper into his persona, and like it's a real life person. So
that's amazing. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Like actually, I can't wait to see this now.
Me too. Right? Yeah.
So, Michael, where can if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to do it?
I think on Instagram,
okay.
Yeah, love like sharing my work there and connecting with other artists and fans as well.
What's your handle?
It's my name, Michael_Paraskevas. Yeah, I think it's a cool way to like connect with people from all over the world, and something that I think is really powerful.
My hope for you is that you get recognized on the con floor, right? Because it's your first con,
yeah.
Right, and that's always the loop, right? As you go to the convention, someone goes like, "Oh my gosh, Michael Paraskevas," you're like, "I hope this for you."
We'll see. Yeah,
I'm excited. That's awesome. Thank you so much for talking.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is super fun.
This is really great to chat with you. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day and your con.